So, hello everyone. I thought कि कल का yesterday we have enjoyed. We had a lighter moments. आप सब लोगों से बात हुई, individually chat हो गई थी. Good morning everybody. Ahmed, Gulab, thank you. आप कल भी थे. Gulab, Pooja, you've been yesterday. Thank you. Sharans, Varsha, you didn't comment yesterday, but you are here today. Good morning everybody. Good evening everybody. Thank you very much for joining. So we had a lighter moment. I was sharing with all of you, and you guys have a really good question. And I hope that the entire thing was very valuable for all of you. I have like most of you have joined us in our Telegram group, and I hope that all of you have received yesterday's PPT. Um, you're free to use that PPT. You can reframe a slide and ask questions from us. In fact, the moment I would like to really contact most of you. I mean, maybe because that Telegram is not open for all of you. Maybe end of this session, I will open it so that everybody can comment and raise questions. Because like when I receive questions, when anyone receives questions, we try to get the graph of where are we heading, like, because like YouTube and all these platforms are mostly a monotonous platform, uh, because we have a plan about a subject and we are delivering it to you. But when you question, when you comment, when you ask back, then we understand that okay, this group of people have this particular question, and this is the flow and the direction of the discussion. And that's why I always encourage. So without wasting much of the time, let's start discussion. So we are on day 2 of research methodology. We had certain things we discussed about. So yesterday it was more about cleaning the image of what entire research looks like, what academic research is like, and how it is different. So when I say academic research, I'm not limiting it to academicians only. We have in fact anybody, especially United Nations or government of India, NSSO, or any private institutions like Gallup or CMIE, or for that matter any of these organizations who are invested directly or indirectly into collecting data from the public and making sense of data. That data are using the same methodology which we are studying from yesterday. Why it is called academic research and how it is different from other forms of research, because in business research or in market research, you have the leverage of using the tool little leniently or not using it at all, right? So there is a difference here. We have to be, when you say static method, we have to be very specific about what scales are we using, what method or methodology are we using, how are we making the reports, are we using the appropriate citations, are we acknowledging the previous researchers or not, because these things increases your reputation as a researcher. So I mean, it's not like people do not fudge, people do not go lenient in academic foray, but those who do are not getting that serious attention from the researchers fraternity as much as the people who acknowledges everything do get attention in the research fraternity. And the whole fun of we doing the research is getting acceptance among the community who are the researchers are. Otherwise, we are actually blindly hitting around with no end goal. So in academic research, always remember the entire process of report writing from the day one of curating the idea is following this method is very important. And that's why yesterday we invested a lot of time into knowing exactly what methods are, formats are, and how it is important for us to have a clear and cohesive idea about it. Today we're going a little deeper into it. So we have given you quiz yesterday. Most of you have attempted that quiz. Most of you have not attempted the quiz, and I think as per the instructions, those who have not attempted the course might not have received the link of the day. And intention is not to keep you away from this process. The whole intention is to make sincerity among, because we are invested live. Had it been a recorded lectures, nobody cares about how many of you are watching, are you actually learning or not. But when we are utilizing the time in the parallel timeline, then the sincerity has to be attended from both the sides. That's why we have created this quiz. Today also there is going to be quiz, and I'm sure that those who have attempted the quiz yesterday must be knowing it, that it is not all that hard and a sort of rocket science. Well, right, friends. So I would request all of you to attend the quiz today as well. And I'm sure that I'm going to give you a kind of surprise gift for the people who are scoring very high. I'm announcing it why, because there has to be some sense of competition among us so that we can take the leverage. So not that I'm going to bar you from not participating, but surely those who are participating and performing are going to get some sort of reward. As a teacher, I think it's my sense of expressing the happiness of you learning from us, right? So all the room norms remains the same. Forgive my spelling mistakes, friends. So most of the times I have this image pattern recognition bent of mind. I think it's a very weird bent of mind. So when I write something, I assume that I have written right, because I don't read back often. Even if I read back, I still see that whatever I have written is right. I don't know, this is some psychological problem. My friend Tapan can answer better that if this is something weird about me. But then I make a lot of spelling mistakes, not into the exact research papers, because it has to be scrutinized from a lot of people. And thankfully, I have a good friend, fellow researchers who kind of rectify my silly mistakes. But here it is there. So please forgive me for the spelling mistake. But then rule remains the same. Most of us are exceptionally good into the subject we are studying. Most of us are not. I mean, I will not would say the word not good. I would say the word though have not started it with the kind of temptation and the kind of intensity one has to start in. I mean, with the intensity and interest you watch Netflix, if you employ the same interest and intensity into doing the research methodology work, it is no difference again, right? You, as much you enjoy watching and binging on Netflix, will be the same amount you'll be enjoying doing that stuff here into the researches. The fun is same. The adrenaline hormone, which we call it, is same at both the places. It all depends that how much, because initial days. So what is good with entertainment? Entertainment hooks you from the very second you begin with it. But things like education, study, research, and something, it takes a while for us to kind of pick up with it and make pace with it. And that is why this whole difference between why people are not rational, why people are not more logical, and why more people are emotional. This whole ambit of differentiation among the kind of people we interact daily comes out. So again, I will not go into that part which we have discussed already yesterday. But my friend, if you are not enjoying something, naturally your tendency of investing your time with that thing will be less. And that's why I persuade most of my friends to at least learn to enjoy it first, because if there is no fun, you will lose it today or day after or day after tomorrow. But that should not be the case, because in 21st century all of us are bound to create and manufacture lot of knowledge, because the dynamics of knowledge is changing, the definition is expanding, the things are changing a lot. Like, for example, in most of your childhood and my childhood, watching TV was kind of not good thing for the family. But today when I discuss it with my kids, and when I look at it in a broader way, I see that watching certain things into TV or maybe into OTT platforms is extremely and exceptionally good. So things are changing, right? Dynamics are changing. And the questions of this century is different than the question of the century we born in. And that's why it is extremely important for us to hang little longer with the subjects like research methodology, so that you can start developing the interest and start making fun from it, because otherwise you will lose it. To do that, we have to acknowledge and extend our empathy and respect and love to the people who are kind of not so well versed with this subject, because we need new people in our tribe, right? Our tribe is very small. We need newer people in our tribe, and we have to welcome them wholeheartedly, right, friends? So please do not pull legs or like lament people or something like that. End of the session, you'll have a quiz. You will have to qualify the quiz, and only when you qualify, you will get certificate and get the link of participating tomorrow. So, like we've been lenient today, like those who have not participated in the quiz, we've sent the link, but tomorrow it is not going to be the case. And certainly on the fourth day, it will be only people who have actually appeared in all of the three quizzes. So today in the description section, you will get feedback form, you will get quiz form, you'll get all of the forms. You can get it from there and start submitting it. So it has become relatively easier from the study, because this technology, this platform is a learning for us as well. Okay, so yeah, so for any kind of query or questions, you're all welcome. Even after this class, you're all welcome to answer it here, right? So you can have my email ID. So yesterday we have completed about the introduction, about the method, about the type, process, and criteria of doing the research. Today we are going to cover three things. You will understand that now the stiffness of the subject is getting little um, higher, and today's subject is going to be a little more technical, and that's why I will request most of you to ask a lot of questions, so that we can help you in answering those questions, right, friends? So thank you, Ebin. I hope it is the same. Oh, I got a lot of messages was not coming in, but now it has started coming in. Ebin, it is visible now. Okay. Oh, yes. So please provide us the materials of your talk. So Evelyn, I have provided, so there is a software called Telegram, and we have provided the link of the Telegram. And if you become the member of that channel called Data XYZ, you have to go to the URL t.me/data XYZ, DATA XYZ, and there you will get all the resources that we are using here, including the quiz and your scorecards and everything personally, whichever way you want it. So hello, Dr. Sohail Imran. Hello, Kalpana. Hello, everybody. I Mehak, Ebin, Dr. Brahmbhat. Thank you. We had a fun yesterday. Anitaba, biology lover, Pinky, everybody. So thank you, Tapan. Thank you for coming here. And yeah, so thank you very much for all coming. I was not getting the feed before, that's why I thought I should little refresh my mobile phone, and it is coming all fine. Okay, so today it is going to be a little technical. You have to push a lot of questions today, and I hope that you will be enjoying it. Yeah. So a little information about myself and my organization. We called Persecresearch. So word Persec is the spelling mistake of the word called parsec. And don't hate me for my repeated spelling mistakes. The word Google is a spelling mistake. If you know that the original name was going to be Google, which is the largest digit nomenclature for the numeric values. But the guys, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, were in so much hurry, they booked the wrong URL, and next day when they tried to correct it, they did not find the right URL, and that's how. So like it's two times. This happened with Google when these guys started booking their URL. Initially, they made a wrong spelling, and second time when they upgraded their company names to Alphabet. They wanted to book alphabet.com. Alphabet.com belongs to uh, IBM. So they have booked a URL called uh, what we call it, abc.xyz. Again, it's a creative thing, right? Calling it ABC and XYZ, but this is really something I really wanted to tell you about Google. So two times they did not get the kind of alphabet they wanted to book. And so coming back to Persecresearch. It has to be parsec, which is the longest measurable distance out in the outer space. But we got it parsec. Parsec is per second. Again, the whole concept is time and distance. So that's how we got our name. And I mean, I'm very romantic about putting a name to a thing. So that's how I wanted to define the name of the organization. So we are the catalysis. What catalysis is? Catalysis is a molecule, is a chemical which does not participate into the input and output of the chemical process. It just speeds it up. It increases the speed and reduces the time of that is when you want a desired result. So for it, similarly, because it's very essential for us, right? We are the ideator. We create ideas for you. We actually kind of chip off unwanted things from your idea and funnel it down to something called a doable idea. In research, we have to, because people are often very ambitious, people are very forward looking, and in the process we sometimes forget to measure the resources we have and the time and other things we have. So we funnel down your ideas to something which is doable. um, yes, Evelyn, you can use it. You're free to use it. It is all yours. Then we are the concept developers. We help you develop. So most of the times we have so much ideas in our brain that we need people to, and we always need consultations. We always need other people's help, and other people need not to be expert of the subject. So it's like sometimes talking to your mom about your research will give you great idea. Not saying that your mom is not researchers. I mean, I have a lot of students with me who are getting research and PhD inspirations from their mom, and their mom are like very bright scholars of research. So and it's not a gender biased statement. I'm just saying emotionally that even if you're talking to your mom and dad, or maybe a gardener or a driver from that per se, then also you're going to get a lot of good concepts being developed. In fact, things like Benjamin Ring, things like Archimedes principles, and a lot of such things have actually come up with your discussions with the people who are not at all even remotely related to kind of subject you are studying it. So so you can develop the concepts, and that's why we always encourage that you can always talk to us. Right, and also data analysis, because this is our forte, this is our expertise. Most of the times we think that a lot of people are having great ideas, they're pursuing that idea, but then they do not know the statistical know-how of pursuing that idea further, and that is where we can also help. You have all sort of ways to contact us. You can see our website or email ID. There are other email ID, that's my personal email ID, and the mobile number that you can hook on and talk to us further, right, friends? So moving again, yesterday I said this, I will not hang on much time here. I'm saying that we want to inverse this pie. We want more people to finish their PhD or whatever research project they are into, and that's why we are putting lot of effort, and genuinely a lot of efforts into doing it. So let's begin, friend. um, uh, Taking it from yesterday, planning. From planning, I'm talking about this research design. That is the first objective of what we are going to do today. All right. So wait a second. If I'm live, can guys quickly ping if I am live, because it is stuck at my end. Oh no, yeah, I'm live. I'm very much fine. So I'm doing it good. Well, okay, so yep. So we'll go a little back about the planning, and then we'll come to research design. And if I'm not able to explain things rightly, if there is still a question in your mind, I would request you to kindly and immediately jump on and put your question here. Right, friends? So yeah, so planning or research needs four answers, four important answers from you. The purpose, right? The purpose of your research, the time that you have, the budget you are having, and the impact that you're intended to make. So these are the four things. Any subject for that matter, you can take it to any length possible, and you should exactly know where you want to stop it and where you want other researchers to pick it from, or maybe you will be picking it from in your subsequent research, so that you can document it comprehensively and package it in a way that it is useful either for the fellow researchers or the researching community or to the society or to the organization or the government or anywhere, right? So otherwise, because any to pursue an idea is a continuous process. Each and every report must be episodic, must stop at some point of time, and that's why we want planning with understanding that what is the cohesive purpose of you doing a research. So for example, if you are trying to measure the impact of rain in the village water supply or the clean water supply to the villages in India, then perhaps you have to be very the purpose has to be very clear in your mind, that are you actually trying to solve the water crisis of India or the tapped water crisis of India or the clean water crisis of India? What exactly are you intended to solve from this research? So while your research is very loose and that you want to measure the water supply of a village and its dependency over the rainwater, or it is very loose end, but the ultimate purpose of this research may be you are suggesting the government for water harvesting as a solution, or or you are actually helping a village to conserve water so that they can use it later when there is a dry season, or maybe you are suggesting an international community who is working upon. Good evening, Samad Sheikh. Good evening. Thank you for coming. Um, Slide cutting left side. Avesh, if you're listening, Professor Brahmabat is saying that slide is cutting from the left side. So please set it. I think in the output I can see Professor Brahmabat, the slide is okay because there is nothing that side. It is only that in particular slide the other half is empty. So please don't think that way. But if at all there is something, my colleague Avesh is listening me and he will be helping us out. So thank you for your input, Professor Brahmbhatt. So yeah, so let me come back to the discussion. I'm saying that your purpose should be included in your planning, because if you not include if you will not include your purpose, then perhaps thank you, Ahmad. Yes, it is an important post. Uh, so then your budget will skyrocket, or you will end up losing interest into it, or maybe the whole purpose will never complete. Next is time. So for example, as an academicians, we all are always time bound, and in fact for that matter any research is always time bound, until unless you are not looking for alien life or maybe some parallel earth in the universe. Because maybe if you are a member of organizations like SETI, search for extraterrestrial institutions intelligence, then probably it is a 40 years old research which is still going on. Or maybe if you are working on the project of Mars with NASA, who are actually trying to understand that if at all people go to Mars, because Mars has a 25 hours a day, we have a 24 hours a day. So you have to set your clock. I mean, you can see there's a professor who is working specifically about humans setting into the Mars timeline. It's a very beautiful research, and it is ongoing research from last 10 years, and I think it will continue for as long as we are not establishing our colonies in the Mars. So yeah, Mehak, there's no slide. Yeah, thank you very much, Mehak, for clearing you. So until unless you're not into some this sort of project, or maybe some project related to poverty elevation of United Nations and other organizations, then probably you have ample amount of time. But even if you have an ample amount of time, your particular project will have some time constraint. So always understand, keep in mind that what is the time constraint you have. Third is the budget. It is extremely costly affair. Doing research is an extremely costly affair, having no immediate rewards, right? So like if every February, every month of February, end of February, last week of February, government of India brings out budget about how are we going to spend the national income for the next coming year. and you see that the budget for R&D is always less, and as compared to the countries who are extremely developed, or maybe have had their colonies in the past and amassed a lot of wealth. So these countries are having a lot of budget segregated for R&D, but the countries who are developing or underdeveloping countries are not having that liberty of having so much budget for R&D activities, because R&D is not solving immediate problems per se. Maybe solving immediate problems, but the chances, the probability of R&D solving immediate problems are impeccably less as compared to doing productions and selling it to the market and earning money from it, which is very smaller in cycle, and it is very much in the horizon that you can see that people can book profits, right? So and this is one reason that we do not have a lot of vaccines are already ready or something of that sort. So budget is a constraint, and most importantly is impact you are going to make. So what is the, if the impact is really very big, it doesn't matter that how much time you have, and it doesn't matter how much budget you have, because you have to learn you have to learn that if the importance of the impact of that research is going to be very high, then you have to have people in your network uh, who can bring in a lot of money in your project, and can give you sufficient leverage of time so that you can finish off your research. So the ultimate, in fact, out of these four parameters on which good evening, Jan Shankar. Yeah. So, out of all the uh, four indicators of planning, I would say that your importance should be highest in the impact segment. If the impact of this research is very high, for example, you're doing a PhD, and I'm talking about the personal goal, and you know that immediately once you finish your PhD, your career will be elevated, your lifestyle will be elevated, the future of your family will be improved, and there will be some sort of certainty in your household income and social standing. Then perhaps this is the or the time and the budgets spent is worth investing, right, friend? So depending upon what is the impact of that particular project is, and that's why most of the people say that by writing a research paper is having a lesser impact than doing a doctoral or a postdoctoral program. I disagree with it. Because one one great research paper will give you the sense of direction, wherein you will be automatically log into the process of doing doctoral programs and postdoctoral programs and fellowships and another fellowships, and having a lot of budget and investment from multiple institutions across the world, and then you're actually giving that idea that value in a very greater way. So a research paper is, one should take the research papers extremely very seriously all the time. Right, friends? So going ahead, talking now, the term we start here, that what is the research design, and if you guys have any question, you can ask me, and you anyway should keep asking question, because you know what, I should have this feeling that the timeline is properly running, and you guys are engaged. So this, yeah, I see you all, most of you must be teacher, and you will agree with me that our habit of teaching is with the people sitting in front of us. And when you have a lot of people, you can see their eyes and their faces, their smile and their cheek will help you understand, okay, whatever you're talking is making sense to these people. But when you are staring at the camera, and you're just blindly assuming that there are people at the other side of the hinge and they are listening and knowing you. So uh, can you reframe your question, Gulab? So I think yeah, publication charges. Okay, it is written oblique. So yeah, budget is anything. So like your process of data collection, your process of reading more books, membership of the library, publications, everything is a cost, of course, and you should. These are the constraints. But like how will you mark off the budget versus impact? Is for example, if you're getting really good research papers, and in fact, most of the times the publication charges are not there into a reputed publications. So you have to be very decisive in what kind of publication you're opting for. And and nowadays, because everybody see opportunities into R&D segments. There are a lot of duplicate and not so quality and serious journals are coming out in the market. So you have to be very, very vigilant about what kind of journal you're publishing with. And publication charge, of course, is thing which has to be included in the budget. So where your budget is, and then another factor is that are you self-financing it, or it is financed by any institutions or any group of institutions. So naturally, if the group of institution is financing it, then publication charges is not a significant charge for them, cost for them to be bothered upon, because naturally the end goal for you is to publish it in some of the other library. For example, if the corporate funding is there, then this corporate is going to use it for the patenting, or maybe further improving their production cycle, or maybe the product as a whole. So naturally, in that situation, the publication is the last thing they will bother. But if it is a self-financed research, of course, every penny spent is the part of the budget, because otherwise you will not be able to do it. So I hope I have answered your question, Gulab. Yep. So coming back to this particular thing, so planning and design. So yeah, friends, please keep on raising question, because I want to have this feeling that other side of this camera, there are people who are listening me and agreeing or disagreeing with what I'm saying. And I always welcome your disagreements. You can always come and talk about if you have any other way of explaining the same thing, or the newer way of explaining the same thing. You can comment, and other people are anyway reading the comments. It will be very important for them. Right, friends. So yeah, so going to the research design, the A is your approach. What should be your, so research design have three factors. So what is research design basically? From idea to report submission, and creating the impact out of that research, you have to follow a process, and that process will automatically design it, right? So and you have to know the design of the research beforehand. Why I'm saying that you should know it beforehand? Because you will not be able to achieve the end goal of research if you are not sure about what kind of design you're using. Number one. Number two is you will not be able to investigate the idea properly, and you will keep on goofing around the method and methodology for the longer period of time, and unnecessarily longer period of time. So that's why it is important for us to have an advanced idea. So of course, your research design, the final research design will certainly be different than the initial design. So like Napoleon Bonaparte always says that planning never works in the battlefield, but that doesn't mean you should go without having any plan at all, right? So so there is a difference between strategy and planning, right? So I remember my favorite professor, Dr. R.K. Vyas, used to say it always, and he used to say this, that planning is off the court and strategy is in the court. So when you are inside the ring and the punches are coming to your face, and you get to know that none of your plannings are working, then you have to devise newer method to win the game while getting the punches on your face, is called strategy. And once you are off the ring and watching the old programs of your opponent and finding out that this is strategy work and that method will work, that is called planning. So planning is always off the court. So as of now, when I'm saying about the initial phases of research design, it is more of a research planning. But once your research will be submitting, you will realize that your planning and your design is all different than the one you started with. But Brahmavat, UGC care list available? Yes, I have available. So I will ask my colleague Avesh to hand you on the Telegram group today. He will give you the UGC care list journal. And Ranvija, if you're also listening, please make sure that it reaches by today and to the people. So yes, Professor Brahmavat, we have the care list 1 and care list 2. Both the lists are there with us. Right. So yeah. So So planning and design is what we've been talking about. So whether it is going to be what is quantitative and what is qualitative, we're going to discuss about later. You will get to know. And in fact, yesterday also we discussed. Or it is a mix. Your research can have partial quantitative and partial qualitative methods as well. So can be hybrid method, can be one method, or can be other method, but you should know it in advance, because knowing it will help you understand what kind of literature you have to review, what kind of past study you have to see, and how you have to make your study different and special and improved from the studies already happened in that particular subject. Right, so that is one thing. Then you have to understand the sampling techniques. Sampling, you know what, like when we're talking about the budget and time, this is where your budget and time is going to be extremely very important, because sampling technique will define that how much money you're going to invest and how much time will it take for you to invest it from. Right, so what time and resource you have. So like even if you have a good budget, you still cannot have good resources. Taking example about ISRO and NASA. So when you talk about what ISRO is doing, what NASA is doing, ISRO is able to launch a probe in the Mars less than the budget of a movie created about the space probing called Gravity. In the same year, there is a movie, Hollywood movie came, Gravity. In the same year, we've launched our probe to the Mars, and the cost of launching the probe into the Mars was almost half than the budget of that particular Hollywood movie. So we understand this fact that budget and resource and time are three different things. You may have a lot of budget, but you may have little lesser resource, or the vice versa, that you still have a lot of budget, but you have a little lesser resources. Example, ISRO has a lesser budget and lesser resources, and but when we're talking about the human capitations, ISRO have a lot of good brains. So yes, there is a lot of poaching with happening. NASA and other space agencies of the world do a lot of poach, lot of ISRO scientists and Indian scientists, but still what we have is a better human value. Even if so, human value is like, so you are from IIT and you are from IIM and MIT or Harvard, but you are very lenient in your approach, and you are very procrastinating human. You do not value your time, and you do not value the time, acknowledge the time and budget of the institutions. So, and then there is a person who is just graduated from decent institutes, having average mark, but he invests efficiently with high energy and passion and romanticism with the work. Then the nature, the delivery and the outcome of the second person I'm talking about is very high. So the people who are working in ISRO, I mean, it's not out of a lot of literature I'm saying, it is out of my assumption that the kind of results we as a space agency have been delivering so far, starting from Aryabhat and Sputnik to the recent probe launched into the Mars, and our subsequent work that is happening in the ISRO. Based on those evaluation, I can very much say that it is not the talent, it is not the ambition, it is not the size of the organization matters. It is the zeal and the enigma of the people invested into that particular organization matters most. So yeah, so resources is in that sense is a different thing. Right, friends. So the reach of the population, right? So for example, yeah, Phantom, it is right. It is available. Professor Brahmbhatt, Phantom is answering right. It is also available into the website, and it is readily available in the Google as well. You don't have to, but then because you have asked this question, it's my duty to deliver it, and you will have it delivered. So what is more important, Phantom, for you to understand is that this list keeps on changing, and that list get updates, and people, the organization drops and picks up new lists every time. So it is important for you to verify by going to the website of the UGC before finalizing any publication agency, right? So yeah, that's a good idea. Pooja is saying time matters more. Of course, time matters more, because this is irreversible capital we have. Money can be earned back, everything else can be earned back, but the time gone is gone, right? All of us are having counted weeks for the life. So absolutely rare commodity that we have, and we should be very cautious about investing it. So I agree with you. And the reach of the population is like that. For example, I have a lot of colleagues who are doing their economic research from LSE UK, and their topic, their sample is from say Alirajpur of Madhya Pradesh, which is the poorest district of India, and one of the poorest land area of the world. And spaces like Dindori, spaces like Shajapur, Ashok Nagar are some of the places in India which is extremely poor, even poorer than the Somalia, which is the poorest country so far. All right, uh, so, for example, you're doing a research here in Delhi, and your sample is about the poverty of Somalia. So you understand that going to Somalia or hiring somebody in Somalia and collecting the data, and then the quality of the data and viability of that data, everything is will can go on toss, because finding right kind of professor there and connecting with them and then doing the data or going yourself, and then language barrier and other things. So reach of the population is also very important, like what kind of population you are planning to collect sampling from, right? And other challenges of sampling includes language barrier, includes comprehensibility, and sincerity of your respondents engaging with you, and the tenure people can give you the same level of sincerity while responding to your sample instrument, right? So and it is there are a lot of challenges. I want to give you an example that people are not always honest to the kind of sampling you are doing, all right? So and for the same reason, I'm saying that you should be very incisive while design. I'll talk to later about sample design, and in the sample design we're going to cover this part again. But I want to tell you here that dishonesty of the people is extremely important that you include in your sampling design whenever you're doing it, because so for example, I'm saying that if you're asking from your respondent that are you a honest person, right? So people will how do you think that people will respond? People will simply say that yes, you are honest. I mean, even if I'm dishonest, my first response to you to make doubly sure that you get it, that I am the most honest person, because the most dishonest I am, the higher emphasis i will I will make on proving myself as an honest person. So simply asking somebody that whether you are an honest person or not is something that is will give you always a wrong responses. So in here you have to apply an observation method that you. I'm just giving an example that you put some money in a wallet, random wallet, some 10 or 20 wallets, and put it in the garden, and then you observe that how many people have picked up that wallet, and how many, and then you put your visiting card in the wallet, and how many wallets come back to you and how many wallets does not come back to you, will give you a sense of right at answer about the honesty of the people you are sampling. But that's a costly affair, because you have to put a lot of money into the wallet, and then visiting cards and the wallet itself is a cost affair. Another way is like you can ask repeated questions in your questionnaire, like are you honest, and then you ask the questions, have do you smoke? If the people say yes, they smoke, did you ever try quitting the smoke? He said yes. Have you continued how many days you continued without smoking in a single attempt? And likewise, you will, in the sequence of questions, you will realize that the people's honesty and people integrity about self is good or not. So these are not the right and exact answers, but I'm actually trying to understand that there are challenges in sampling, and that challenging sampling also takes a lot of time and lot of budgeting constraints for you, right? So, and that's why it should be the part of your designing. Another is your analysis method, right? The kind of tool you're going to use, because tool will define what kind of sampling techniques you're using, how much sample are you going to collect, what should be the ratio of your population and sampling, and all sort of things. So it is again an important thing that the selection of tools should be planned early. So you know what, like most likely you're planning about your sampling tool methods will differ at the time of at the time of analysis. Why? Because most of the times you don't get desired results for various reasons. Maybe your sampling is not right, maybe your sampling is not appropriate, your sample is not validated to the scale you wanted it to be validated, and there are a lot of things. So yep, so there can be situations, right? And then degree of validity, how much degree of validity are you assuming from the research, and the last part is that what is the objective of the research. So entire things like in the as much in the previous slide we discussed is more or less the same we are talking here. So yes, friends. So this is how it should be. Next is what is sampling and how it is different from population. So when I say the word called population and sample is a different is the same thing, right? So universe is like the whole gambit available for you to draw your sample from. So naturally, you cannot test each and everything available in your universe available in a sample, because you don't have time for it, you don't have budget for it, you don't, and end of it, the ultimate purpose is not to test each and every entity, variable or sample of the universe of the population. So why? Because you can predict about the entire population by collecting a portion of it from it. So what should be that portion, and how will you select what kind of portion is something we're going to talk next into the slide. But here we have to understand the fact that how you decide on what kind of sample you should select from the universe. So first and foremost thing, that are you able to define your universe rightly or not? So you can use the word population from the term universe. It will be easier for you to understand. Yeah, so universe is something like, uh, for example, I am doing the research about the reasons of the poverty in African region. So here the universe is anybody who lives in the geographic location of Africa continent. So that's your universe. And your observatory means your instrument, your scope, your ability of doing of collecting that sample from the available universe, right? So and I use this image appropriately, why? Because if you're looking out in the universe, right, so which segment of universe you are looking at is limited. I mean, you cannot look at all the 360-degree dimension of the universe at one go, right? So if you have an observatory, your observatory has to focus at something, and while focusing, you have to have an end goal of the research. So, for example, are you looking for life out there in the universe, or are you looking for the genesis of a birth of a star, or are you looking for a galaxy out there, or are you looking for a planet like Earth having the possibility of any biosphere out there? What are you looking? So accordingly, you have to focus your observatory to that point. So right, so you've got your universe, you've got your observatory, and then you have to figure out what exactly are the parameters you are going to observe from the location. So for example, you are talking about the quality of the soil, and so the soil of the land you have measured is your universe. And when we talk about quality of the soil, so you have to be very focused. Is the quality of the soil you're looking for agriculture, or the quality of soil you're looking for example, putting your machines over there, or making taking the moisture, usability of the water, or maybe filtration of the water? What is the purpose of you testing the quality of the soil? And the next step is that when you decided it is for the agriculture, so what exactly is the plantation or the harvest or the crop you are looking it for? Are you looking it for the potato, or you're looking for the wheat, or you're looking for apples, or something like that? So within that, so once you set your observatory that okay, I'm looking it for say potato. So what are the parameters of a soil, that if the soil have these kind of parameters, it will be good for potato, and it will not be good for potato? So for example, the moisture in the soil, the density of the soil, the slogginess of the soil, right? The uh, availability of the kinds of bacteria and other things in the soil. are some of the significant parameters based on which you will be deciding whether this particular soil sample is good for potato harvesting, cultivating of the potato or not, right? So now you've got it, and then you're further nose diving it that okay, now this is the part of agricultural land, I have to test the quality. And so if I have say 5 acres of the land of which I have to test the quality of the soil, then I will be picking up soil from at least 20 different locations of that particular 5 acres of the land, right? So why I have to pick it from 20 different locations? Because you know that there is a tree at the one corner of that 5 acre of the land, and the shadow of that tree creates some sort of bars the sunlight for some particular time. So the kind of fungal and bacterial activity of that particular land segment will be different to the side of the ground agricultural land where sunlight is almost available throughout the day. So the water will be having less moisture, the water will be having less fungal and bacterial density and other significant factors. And that's why you have to take 20 to 30 different locations of the sample so that you can average out using the right technique of the research. Right, friends? So this is how you finally decide on doing the sampling. And once you have got the plan that okay, I am doing the soil testing. Second, I'm doing the soil testing for the potato harvesting. Then I got that these are 4-5 parameters: the fungal and bacterial configuration of the land, and the moisture of the land, and the quality of the clay, and other quantity. These are 5-6 parameters, and within that parameters, okay, these are the 20 locations within that 5 acres of the land I'll be collecting sample from. That defines your sample. So I assume that I have made you understand the method of deciding the sampling, what kind of sample you should use. If not, that then you should put your question forward. And if there is no question, I assume there is no question, I will move it forward. Right. So how the whole thing is happening? Usability of the sampling. That is right. What is the purpose of sampling and doing that we have already discussed. Next is erroneous factors of the sampling. Erroneous factors, when I say that, okay, for example, I am testing the toxicity of the water of a pond in my village, right? So there is a pond in my village, and I am actually calculating the toxicity of that water. And if I'm calculating the toxicity of the water, because why I'm taking the example of pond, because not the lake or the river, because pond is the place where the water is jammed and water is not moving. So the possibility of having any poisonous fungal and bacterial infestations in that particular water reservoir will be higher. Right. So if you are doing the sampling and you're picking up the sample from one side of the pond, and that side of the pond having shades, because there are a lot of trees and lot of other things available on that side of the pond, and you are collecting the sample from only that side, then you have missed a factor of shadow and lesser temperature and lesser exposure to sunlight of that particular side of the water. So naturally, whatever outcome you will be having will be skewed and will not be the actual outcome. The resultant outcome will not be the exact outcome of the things that you're trying to measure. So there are a lot of erroneous factors, right? For example, you're calculating the average height of the people living in a city, and you're applying a random sampling method. And the day you are doing your research, on that particular day, there are a lot of people have come from other part of the world, maybe because of the international final match, or maybe some sort of international examination, or some exhibitions happening, and you end up going to that exhibition location, and you're randomly sampling the people and marking the average height. Then that will not give you the exact average height of the people living in that particular city, because you have ignored the factor that the population that day or in that particular city was actually an immigrant, and the people not actually living in that particular right. So Mehak, I'm going to answer you in the subsequent slide, so you have to wait. But it's a good question. Claire, rate analytics also have a very good journal list of Web of Science. Yeah, acha, yeah, you inform me. Okay. Yep. So thank you, Mehak. In fact, we are also coming up with a website called phdworld.org, and so it is not yet ready. It is not yet populated perfectly, but we are going to list the conferences, subject-wise conferences. We're going to list the research journals with their timeline of publications and with other definitions and informations in which we'll be continuously doing scrutiny. So we will also invite a lot of universities having their PhD programs and displaying their subjects and listing there. So we are actually creating a water hole for all the researchers. So that in a way, it's not ready now, but very soon it will become one place wherein you can come and check what journal is good for publication or whatnot. So we are already trying to solve this problem, because this is a very genuine problem. It is a hard-earned money and resources and times that go waste if we pick up the wrong journals. So thank you very much, Mehak, for your help, and everybody can also refer to what Mehak is saying, right? So yep. So, Mariam, thank you very much for appreciating. This gives a sense of feeling that I'm going right. Right, friends. So, erroneous factors should be removed. So what we should do when we have got this possibility of having erroneous factors is like you go and collect samples from a lot of places, right? So on multiple days, and you take from different part of the city. You take sample. You know what happens, like when we hire surveyors for us, and we give them a target that you have to collect minimum 100 data today. So these guys are always having in a sort of applying some sort of shortcuts to do the sample collections, and that they end up landing to a marketplace or exhibition place wherein they get a lot of people. And because the people are comparatively free and open to respond to your questions when they are into the marketplace or when they are into some sort of exhibition place, and because of that reason, it becomes easier for the surveyors to collect data easily from that locations, rather than knocking to the doors and like steering away from the dogs in the courtyard of the people who are living and taking. So that is a very painful practice people try to avoid. And that's how we get a lot of erroneous factors get collected. um, uh, Thank you, Mr. Kaur. Thank you very much for your appreciation. So yeah, so that's why we should have a complete check and balance. And how you can keep your the surveyors, when you hire a surveyor, how can you keep check and balance on your surveyor, because you're not there in the ground sampling the data. There are other people you have hired, and those people are very my profit centric and money centric. They're not bothered about that whether you're getting the right kind of sample or not. Not always is the case, but mostly it is the case. So you, in your questionnaire, so the questionnaire that you'll be using in your research and the questionnaire that you've designed for the surveyor to collect data from can have additional questions to validate and verify that the surveyor is exactly putting the right kind of effort, right? So you can always add things there, right? So for example, if you're doing the sample about a particular brand recognition and brand premium in a particular market. Rather than asking questions about your brand, you can ask questions about arbitrary brand, because the moment you will put arbitrary brand in your question and you will compare it with your demographic questions, that are you a guy from the rural location or from the urban rural location, is your income band is say 10 lakh rupees or 5 lakh rupees. When you compare it from the demographic locations, you will realize that your surveyor has made a mistake, because if the person from the lower income band and rural location is answering good about brands like Gookie or PNG or Palmolive or something like that, then you will be realizing that the people in the rural places are not knowing these kind of brands. So that means this surveyor has actually forged the get published, I came to know that there's fake. And yes, Professor Brambhat, I have faced this situation, and I can empathize with you. It is a very painful time. So all the journals, Dr. Ankit Patel, all the journals take time, and when you will, because you are a doctor, I assume that very soon you'll be into the panel of peer reviews and the journal review group, and you will realize that, like doing justice with all the researcher is a time-taking things, because when you have done research, most of the research takes more than a year to complete and a lot of money to complete. And when somebody just toss it off, then you understand the pain, right? So you have to do justice with a lot of fellow researchers, and it is always a time-taking thing. So it is not like, though I agree with you that time should be reduced, and for that matter, we are doing this classroom, because if we'll have most of so if your article or a paper is accepted within few days, then it is fake. Ankit, that is a parameter. Soon, I wish it should not be this parameter in. But then, can we hold on this publication thing? I know we all are worried about that thing, but we are distracting from the things that we're discussing here. So good journals will always take 90 days. When I wish that we can reduce, and we as a fraternity can reduce, like let a lot of people do PhD, a lot of people come into that club wherein they can engage with a lot of researchers. This is a very barren land. Research is a very barren land. There are very less amount of the people who are interested into sincere research practices. And Misha ji, Dr. Misha, you've said right, predatory journals are there. So these are the problems, and we are generally invested towards correcting it, at least playing our bit to correct it. And that's why we have launched phdworldorg. Very soon it will be having all these questions addressed which you guys are raising. Now let's hook back to the subject we're talking about. So in this factor, I discussed about how we can remove errors from the sampling designs. You can always have a check and balance to the surveyor you're hiring. And then there are things called method of sampling. We'll discuss about the method of sampling. Scope, how much scope you have about the sampling, right? So because a lot of people doing their program in US and Canada and Australia, a lot of NRIs particularly who are Indian, and the NRI students doing their programs there, they always select their research pertaining to the scope back in India. So one reason is that they are very shy of going to collect and sample from the population of UK or Canada or US or Australia, because naturally there is a racial difference, and it gives you a sense of uncomfort when you are into a land of someone else. So this problem happens. So that's why they always put their scope back to India, and then they struggle into appropriately translating the schedule and instrument properly, recalibrating it for the Indian sample and scope. It is for that reason I'm saying that it is very important for us to have a right kind of scope of sampling the instrument, of the scope of sampling. And then finally we're talking about the sampling instrument. What should be the right instrument for you to select for the sampling, right? So like sampling instrument have a lot of things to do with the quality of your research paper. Why? Because one reason is that maybe if you are so what happens, like senior professors and senior researchers, they ask their junior fellows to do the sampling for them, and junior fellows most of the times they literally go out and do the sampling collections. That is so good of them. But then most of the people, they hire their juniors, or maybe somebody arbitrary from the market at the cost of money, and they ask them to do the sampling. And in the process, they neglect some very crucial thing. One is that is the intellect ability, or is the comprehensive index of the people who are doing the survey on your behalf is sufficient or not, right? So that is also one important thing. So Jyoti, Ankit, everybody, you guys are still hanging on to the same thing. Come back. I know this is a journal. This is a thing. We will talk categorically about how to select, and how to how to understand that there are predatory and fake journals targeting you. So there are ways to figure it out. But yeah, there is still a chances that you get duped. So let's hang on. Let's come out of it. So I think we're talking here in sense. So, but then thank you for contributing. Right. So coming again about the sampling things. So there are two kind of sampling. It is very important for us to understand this. And if you will be deviated, you will be losing it out. So I request most of you guys to head back to the screen and uh, look at the slide. I'm talking about two kind of sample: probability sampling and non-probability sampling. So, and what is this probability or non-probability sampling? We're going to talk about in this sequence next, right? So, uh, so probability sampling is something we call when we are depending upon the probability of the sample. So for example, there are two set of things. Like for example, I'm saying that um, all the population is all the population likes chocolate very much, right? So if this is what I'm trying to find out, right? So I know, Professor Bun, but you're actually worried rightly. I'm not saying that the concern is any less we're talking about, but what I'm saying that let's hang on into this, because the very reason we all are engaged together is this, not the checking the quality of journal. So I'm not discarding your concern. All I'm saying that let's solve the problem one at a time, right? We cannot shoot all the birds in one bullet. So right, so if we are deviated, we are losing it a lot. So let's not deviate that way. That the only thing I'm saying is not to deviate. Mehak, you're again coming over the same thing. Okay, so I'll put you guys to. I just expect that you focus more on the things that we're talking. Yes, so probability sampling method is that when you're based more upon on the when the consequences of probability in your sample collections will not adulterate your sample. So, for example, I'm saying that if you're testing that a particular city is especially liking chocolate very much, then perhaps if you do the random sampling and your based upon your random sampling, if the random sampling is saying that yes, that there is a higher amount of the people liking chocolate, then you can say that the population of that particular city likes chocolate very much. So here the probability quotient of your sampling is not reducing the quality, the significance of your sampling, right? But then there can be a situation wherein probability sampling will not give you a right solution. So for taking example is what can be a very exact example, wherein if you're taking the so for example you're saying that um, all the patients uh, all the patients here in this particular hospitals are infected with AIDS virus, right? HIV virus. And then you are collecting some 10 to 20 sample out of say 1,000 patients available in the hospital, and you say that okay, based on this 10 sample, all the samples are testing positive. This means entire and all the 1,000 patients of this particular hospitals are HIV positive, right? So then this is wrong, because in this particular research the probability quotient of your sample is adulterating or maybe reducing the objective or the significance of the sampling that you're taking, right? So that random sampling will not be, probability sampling will not be helpful here. So what are probability sampling? So there are four kind of probability sampling out there. One is random sampling. Random sampling is blind sampling when population is extremely very huge, and the testing is relatively small, right? The test question, the number of questions and the number of objectives of your test is relatively small as compared to the population. Then you can go for simple random sampling, and the outcome of that simple random sampling will help you give the desired results, right? So as you can see in the picture, you're just randomly picking people from the sample, and you are able to get the results, because here the question, the objective of your research is not too much about the percent, 100% veracity of the result that you're trying to test. So that's a simple random, randomly picking the sample from the population and testing it, right? So that is simple random sampling method. Another is cluster population sampling method. So coming back to that pond thing, in the pond, if you're testing the water for the toxicity, and if you're picking water in your pipette from say 100 different locations of that pond, and you're creating the cluster that, okay, from the shady area I'll be taking 10 samples, from the semi shady area I'll be taking that more sample, and the area wherein people are using for bathing or cleaning their clothes, or cleaning their kettle out there, I will take 10 samples from that location, and the and the area of pond which is relatively untouched from the human activity, and is open for the barren sunlight throughout the day, and whole night for the oasis, for the condensed water and everything. There I'll be taking 10 locations. So you've taken, you made some 10, 20 clusters of that pond, and you've taken some 10 to 20 samples from each clusters each. So that is called cluster population sampling, right? So I hope I have made you understand the difference between random sampling and the cluster sampling, right? So another sampling method is right, systematic sampling. In the systematic sampling, your objective is to systematically make a differentiation between among the samples that you're collecting. So for example, if for in a college, in a university, you're trying to calculate that how many kinds of racial population you are going to find out. So right, so Mehak has a question, right? But sir, in random sampling technique, we should have the subject in number or written from so that we can use systematic sampling or simple random sampling. So Mehak, let's not confuse into systematic sampling and random sampling. I'm coming about systematic sampling. Systematic sampling you do when the answerability of your conclusion from the research is on stake. So, for example, you are answerable to the government or to the society or to the right. So, and you will vouch for your result outcome, then you make using more of a systematic sampling design. But when your research is independent of any side of prejudices or judgments, or we will not tag you, and the sample is really very huge, and probability is not probability index will not actually going to be greatly impact your sample, then you will be going to the simple random sampling. So it's a clear cut difference between what we're doing. Can you please give another example of cluster sampling? Yes, Dr. Please elaborate again on cluster sampling. Yeah. So maybe the pond thing did not help you understand much, but I want you to understand. For example, I will take, okay. So for example, what kind of people come to the tourist place, to a particular tourist place. So for example, there is a tourist place which is famous for snowfalls and hilly areas and high altitude terrains, wherein you can do ski and biking, snow biking, and play snow and other things. And if that is a tourist place, and you want to find out that what kind of people come to your tourist locations at what particular season. If this is what you want to figure out, then simply going to the hotels of that particular tourist locations and randomly knocking the doors of the people and collecting samples will not serve the purpose, right? So it will not give you the desired results you're asking. Simple random method will not work for you, right? In fact, you have to figure out that, okay, what part of season of that particular location is yes, I'm doing that, right? So what kind of uh, you have to make clusters, like, okay, people who are living in a dense forest area come to watch and enjoy the snow more, and the people who are into desert, living in the desert, come to enjoy more. The people who are living in heavy rainy areas come and enjoy more. People who are living in the Deccan and Plateau come to enjoy more, or something like that. And in order to do that, you have to collect equal amount of data from all sort of samples. So for example, you have to collect 100 data from the people living in desert who come to enjoy the snow tourist destination, some 100 sample from the people living in the forest land and tribal area, 100 sample people living in the rainy area, and 100 sample of people living in the plateau and the Greenland area. So likewise, you have to make cluster sampling, right? Taking equal amount of sampling from different locations, and it will help you understand the homogeneous outcome and more comprehensive outcome about your research. Otherwise, if you're just knocking the door of the hotels of the touring destination and asking that, okay, what region you belong to, why did you come here, what are the reasons, what are the games are you going to play, and all these things. So this will not give you the sufficient evidence about what kind of the people are attracted more to which particular tourist destination. I hope I have made this clear. Yep. So thank you very much if you got it clear, right? So this is clustering. So like from randoming to clustering, there are so if you're clustering it, on what principle are you clustering it? That is also one question, right? It is a systematic sampling is also a method of clustering, and stratified random sampling is also a kind of clustering, right? So both are the way of clustering it, but here the clustering can happen on and many principles. So in this tourism example, we have taken the origin, the geography of the people, the tourist originating from, coming from. Another can be the ethnicity of the people who are coming from, right? And another could be that which region have have a population having tendency of doing at least one leisure tourism in a year, at least once, right? So that can be another method. Like for example, people from middle India are very less likely to invest a lot of money into a leisure travel every year, but the people in South India or maybe people in Eastern India are having some sort of sense of mandate leisure traveling at least once in a year. So this is another way of you making a cluster sampling, right? So when you do this sort of cluster sampling, like based upon the the amount of population are very frequent into leisure traveling. If you're putting this as your criteria of segregating your population, then it can be termed as the systematic sampling of the people, right? So yeah, so that is how you will be converting it from systematic sampling. So you are actually devising a system to collect the sample. That is called systematic sampling, and that system can be, okay, if the people are not understanding this language, then I'm not taking their responses. So you have created a system because maybe that if the person is not understanding the language, then the kind of response that particular respondent will deliver will not be sufficiently answering your research questions. And that's how you created a system that, okay, if the person is not knowing this particular language, will be excluded from my research, or the people from each language segment will be having the part of my research, because I want to get the answer which is independent, which is which is language neutral. So for example, you're talking about the poverty of the people living in the footpath of Delhi, and you want to do the sampling, then and then you're going and sampling, and then there's a poor who has originated from Orissa and is not understanding your language, then and you're not collecting that sample, and all Orient samples you ignore just because you do not know Orient language or Bengali language, or for that matter Marathi language or some such or sort of things, and you've ignored them just because you do not know the language, then whatever outcome you're delivering in your research, the objective of the research will be adulterated. So you hire somebody who knows their language, or at least make them that uh, uh, having 5 PhD students under me, can you put light on the randomized controlled trial sampling method? Okay, I'll come back. I'll just try to answer this question. It's a very beautiful question. Let me finish what I'm saying. I'll answer it. So yes, so that is called systematic sampling. All right. So now, answering specific to Mehak's question, randomized controlled trail sample is that for example, so you have two set of variables in which you have a controlled group variable and non-controlled group variable, and and when you're comparing the controlled group variable, so and non-control, and both the population of the controlled group and non-controlled group are from the random pickup, then it is called the controlled group controlled randomized controlled sample design. Why we are doing it? So for example, you are testing a vaccine and its impact, right? So you will be applying a placebo effect, right? So to some population you will be actually administering that vaccine, and to some population you will be only administering placebo look-alike of that vaccine, not exactly the vaccine, and both the population will not be knowing which population is getting administered the vaccine and which population is getting administered the placebo, right? So in this population you have to have sufficient amount of African American and Africans, Nigerians, a Punjabi, Asian, right? Eastern Asian, Middle Asian, North Asian, South Asians, and Hispanics, non-Hispanics, right? Nordics, non-Nordics. You have to have all the set of random populations into the control segment and non-control segments both. Then only you will be able to understand that the impact of that vaccine is evenly measured. Otherwise, it will not be evenly measured, right? So I hope I have cleared it. It's 20 minutes left. So I hope I'm late. Maybe this is a technical thing. We'll just see how we are going to rectify it. Or maybe I need somebody's assistance to rectify it. But then I hope I have answered it. Okay, so now coming to the next thing, systematic sampling I have expressed. Then we talk about the stratified random sampling. So again, it is random, but it is stratified. So for example, in the same case you talked, Mehak, we can have stratified random sampling. We can say that, okay, the height of the people should be segregated, right? The gender of the people should be segregated. The food habit of the people, the vegetarian or the non-vegetarian, should be segregated, and then apply the random pickup of the respondents. Then it will be called stratified random sampling. So what we have actually done, that if I'm talking about the impact of protein on the skin of the people, if that is my question, then I cannot just pick up the people from the tribal locations who invest a lot of time bare open in the sun and do a lot of work in the jungle and in the tribal locations, and they eat a lot of protein. Maybe they eat snake, they eat pork, they eat other sort of non-veg, and they take a lot of protein, but still their skin is burnout, shady, and thin, right? So, and then there are people who are not exposed to sunlight, are taking relatively less protein, are vegetarian, and even if they are even if they are uh, uh, vegetarian, they are not consuming dietary protein or other sources of protein much, but still their skin is thin, thick and shiny. And then perhaps, and if you not take this stratified random sampling, then the whole research outcome will be skewed towards a particular sample, right? So that's why stratified sample design is extremely very important, right? So thank you, Professor Brahmbhatt. It humbles me and it gives me a sense of proud that I'm able to I'm useful to you people, and this makes sense. Purposive and convenient sampling, sir. Yeah. So in next slides, Ankit, I'm doing that. So I hope we'll be addressing that. Yep. So coming to next thing, that is non-probability sampling design. And in a non-probability sampling method is that it is the sample in which the impact of probability can reduce the significance of your research, and that is why you do not want to apply any sort of probability. That means what? That you're not what I say, want to be influenced by small uh, a tint of differences into the result outcome. You actually need to measure it more accurately, more precisely, with a definite outcome from it. Then probably you'll be applying it. That doesn't mean that the other one is not going to give you a definite result. The challenges are there. So both the methods are having their own challenges and benefits both, right? So we can discuss upon it a lot, but then the whole factor is that when you are forced to based upon probability sampling. Why? Because the population is really very huge and you do not have time, budget, resources to make a larger population sampling, and that's why you go for the probability sampling. But if your population is relatively less, and if your population is uh, 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 reaching out to the population is not very costly and not time consuming and hard work, then probably you should choose for probability sampling. And of course, what is the ultimate outcome and objective of you choosing that particular sampling method is also very different, right? So here we're talking about the non probability sampling, wherein your quotient of being based upon the probability of the outcome is lesser, then you select for this method of sampling. So there are some method of sampling which we call convenient sampling. So right, so convenient sampling is like, for example, what is in my quick reach, right? What is in um, uh, my immediate reach, right? My cost of going there is less, my cost of interacting with the population is less, and the things which is in my stake is comparatively less. Then you can do convenient sampling. The image over here is explaining you perfectly, right? So how it is convenient for you to reach out to your sample, and based on your convenience you're deciding that, okay, I'm going to go and select this sample. Because, like, for example, uh, for example, if you're trying to calculate about trying to measure that, okay, how many of you love watching TV soaps, if this is what you want to calculate, then rather than going to each and every house in the afternoon time and knocking door when people are sleeping, and you're knocking, and when somebody opens the gate and they're already annoyed that you have disturbed them, and then you're going and asking that, okay, do you like to watching TV soap or not, then probably the whatever you'll get as an outcome is not what you expected for your research program, right? So it is not a nice idea to do a research on likeness or dislikeness of a TV soap by actually knocking the door in the middle of afternoon to somebody's home, right? So that's not a good idea. So what can be a good idea? The good idea is that you go to the places wherein people hang out more and people are open to talk to the newer people, and you just walk into to a mall wherein air condition is on and you're not actually into exposed in the sunlight, and the people can stay some time, some minutes with you, and will be love to answer this kind of questions you're asking. So yep, so that is called convenient sampling. So here, and because it is a shopping mall, so people from all sort of socio-economic strata are coming to it. So the uh, the com- the homogeneous population, the chances of you getting homogeneous populations very high rather than knocking the door, because mostly the living colonies are community specific. You will have Sikh specific colonies, or Hindu specific colonies, or maybe old people are living at one places, or the rich people are looking at living at another places. So that cannot give you the kind of right mix of kind of population. So convenience of this is called convenient sampling. Thank you so much. uh, Thank you very much. Mehak, I hope I have explained. If not, matter means every individual has a chance to be. Yes, of course. So that's how it is. So Mehak, there is no contradiction into what you are expecting, what I'm. So the very purpose of random is that everybody has a fair and equal chance. But will they ultimately be a chance or not, right? So that is another question. So the ultimate is that you're only going to get a handful of the respondent from the big large population. So I'm not contradicting to what you're saying. All I'm saying is that you make it segregated based upon you're clustering based upon the control group and non-control group, and within that you are actually trying to put in all the places. So within that community you are giving equal chance and opportunity for the people to be part of your sampling program, right? So I'm not contradicting to what you're saying. It is very much included in it, right? So yeah, so thank you so much. I'm going ahead with what I was explaining. Then we talk something about called the quota sampling. So what is quota sampling is, so for example, you are doing a research about who likes what political organization, right? And you naturally know that liking or disliking of any political organizations highly dependent upon the demographic identity of the particular respondent, right? And so you have to, in order to have a conclusive research outcome from it, you have to allocate a quota to a particular demographic identity of the respondent. Otherwise, you will be end up getting more respondents from one particular demographic identity and less respondent from one demographic identity, and your research will ultimately get skewed, right? So to remove that error from your sampling design, you should actually use this particular method called quota sampling, in which you are equating the demographic uh, 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 parameters of your samples so that the end goal of your research is achieved, right? So this is one method. Another method is called snowball sampling method. What is the snowball sampling method? Is like you pass it to one passes to two passes to four, and four passes to one passes to, and it makes a sort of hierarchical tree in which your sample is moving. So it's like you don't have energy, resources, and capacity to to actually reach out to all the samples, and for that same reason you are what says you are sitting at one places and you're passing your schedule of survey instrument to one from another and one from another. In the digital space you can understand it much better, because you make a Google questionnaire, and then you pass it to the questionnaire, and then you request the respondent that you pass it to further. That is called snowball sampling. It has its own limitations too, but as long as it is serving your result desired outcome, it is a cost effective and convenient method for you to do a research, right? And absolute non probability sampling is like when you control that who among the respondent, so you pick and choose your respondent categorically, evenly, and putting at one place, and then you're collecting data, then that is called non-probability sampling, right? So I hope this sampling thing would have been cleared to most of you. If not, you can ask question. I will be always grateful to answer all of your questions. Right. So coming to next thing is called method of survey. Okay, so I have placed too many eyes. No, no, I have placed too many eyes before illiterate. So I repeatedly say that I'm really poor in spelling, and you know, like when I'm presenting this presentation to you, I'm able to see that I have made a mistake. But when I was making this presentation, this particular mistake was not visible to me. This is called image memory, and the problem with the image memory is that you don't go to the details. So and so I'm not trying to offend with this when I say illiterate respondent or literate respondent. My purpose of you telling is that, for example, you're sending a questionnaire, and which is in Hindi or English language or any particular language, official language, and your respondent is not knowing that language or maybe not able to read or write, and then what will happen to that survey question? And it will never come to you, right? The response will never come to you. So then you have to, and then it is not possible for you to reach out to all the places, right? And another method is problem is that if I am asking some questions related to the privacy of the respondent, then the chances is high that the respondent will give me a wrong answer, right? So and so there are two set of things. One, the person needs your help to respond to your questions, and in another sense is that person may or may not need your help, but is extremely conscious about losing out the privacy which is there in the question. So for example, if somebody is talking about the age or the medicine one takes, or the allergic one person is about, or the religious bent of life. These are the questions people are not very much open to answer. So there they have a concern of privacy. And another set of question is that they're simply not able to read and write what you are asking from them. So depending upon what is the priority of your respondent, you should select your survey method, right? So the priority may be that I'm willing to answer your question, but I'm not understanding your language or maybe your way of asking questions from me. So then probably you should go about in-person survey or the third-person survey. In-person survey is like you as a researcher yourself avail yourself to the respondent and you directly are asking questions. And in the third-person survey is like you're hiring someone and they are doing the samples for you. What is the difference in both the methods? In-person sampling is you are well versed, you understand the background of the study, so you will be able to record the response of the respondent with enlightened conviction as compared to the person whom you have hired. Naturally the person you have hired will have a relatively lesser comprehension about the kind of research you are doing, and that may be the reason that the person can casually record the response of the respondent without giving a proper thought that what is the respondent is trying to say. So here the chances may be higher. What is the problem with the first one? That it is not possible for you to go to each and every respondent and record the responses. What is the problem with the option B is that the person can be in hurry or can be in some sort of urgency to not appropriately record it. And in the problem with the first thing is that you as a researcher are always biased to create an outcome out of your research. So even if you're understanding the respondent, you're marking a wrong response code just because you want to satisfy your own intellectual appetite out of that particular research. And in the third person survey, that the person is not hardly cares anything about um, 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 yep. So consecutive and convenient sampling was a part of the sampling we discussed last time. Gentlemen, let me just plug my computer from the charging. I'm sorry. Okay, so so it is called so in third person will not be having any emotional bias to the kind of response you're taking. In literate respondent cases, people are able to read your sample, read your questionnaire, your instrument, are able to think about it and will be able to answer it. So the good thing is that they will be responding it with greater sense of responsibility, as long as their privacy is not hacked and privacy is not breached. The moment you will start talking about their privacy, you have to be little indirect in your question code, and in indirectly, kindly, Priyanka is saying kindly re-explain about quota sampling. So quota sampling, Priyanka, without going back to the slide, I want to tell you, in the quota sampling is that if you, I have taken the example of which particular political organization you like, and for example, if you're doing this sample, then you will also realize it is a fact that a person belonging to a particular community or religion or socioeconomic background tends to like one kind of political organization more as compared to others, right? So, and you as a researcher may end up going to a place which is dominant to the kind of respondent who have predominant likeness about one particular political organization, and that region or that place segment is having extremely less likeness about some other political organizations, right? So and maybe it can happen vice versa. So in that case, your sample will be wrongly advised, wrongly recorded. Giving you another example, that most of the survey exit polls, today is the day of election results if you guys are watching, and probably that's why I'm taking this example much more, because inside my brain I'm really very excited to go back and see the results. But a lot of exit polls get skewed towards one particular organization. Why? Because the few political organizations are very extrovert and very excited to reveal about their polling decisions, and people of some other political organization afflictions are hesitant and shy of, or maybe scared of answering the questions you're questioning from them. And that's where what happens, that you kind of get a wrong result, right? So this happens very often with a lot of exit poll people. Now they are devising new scientific method, and there are a lot of psephologists coming up to remove these kind of prejudices. And the one factor they use is called quota sampling. So they will stop asking questions from the people who sound more excited and more extrovert in recording their responses, and they will start recording more from the people who are shy of or scared of or less likely to answer the questions you're asking from them. And that's how you put your respondent type into a quota, so that your ultimate research goal is not defeated. That is called quota sampling. Priyanka, I hope I have explained it rightly. Right. So thank you, Mehak. Thank you for your compliment. So in coming back to it, so in private, when you are asking questions which is very much prone to record the privacy of the respondent, then you have to be very lenient and indirect and modest in the way you're asking questions, and you should sound reassuring that the responses that you've recorded from that particular respondent will not be revealed or be misused or will be sold off, right? So but here you have this convenience that the respondents are relatively equipped, educated, literate, and digitally literate, and are able to answer you without any complexity and problem, right? So and it also depends on the kind of research you're doing. For example, if you're talking about the social deprivations, so naturally you have to use survey method, in-person survey method. And if you're using about talking about the share market investment preferences, then probably you can take the right side and online survey and telephonic survey, because here people are highly possible that they're literate and educated and are confident about asking the answers. Uh, Pooja, what is the bad result you quoted? That are you intending to ask some other question? Please elaborate. I'll wait for your question. Okay, so now talking about the ethics of research. The ethics of research is um, the respondent privacy should never be breached. In all your questionnaire design, you have to be vocally assure your respondent that your privacy will not be breached. And if you're an academic researcher, you should assure that all your respondents that their information will not be misused. And most importantly, that if you think that the respondents contact details or identity is not important for you, then do not record the identity and contact details head away, or maybe their physical address or something like that. Do not record it at all, simply because it makes them vulnerable and worried about responding to you, and any some sort of sensitivity to their towards their privacy will destroy the ultimate purpose of your research. So that should not be there. Then comes the neutrality of the surveyor, right? So what is neutrality of the surveyor? Is that either you're doing the survey or you have hired someone to do the survey. Then the surveyor has to be absolutely free from any bias, right? And it is extremely unlikely for the researchers to have any biasness. Why I'm telling you that, like, I don't know how many of you are the student of history, but none of the history books in the world ever have been written free from any biasness, right? In fact, all the research topic, all the research subjects related to when specifically history is a fact, right? Future is an obsession. So there is a difference between history and future, right? So you can have a lot of fantasy about the future, but history is unromantic fact. Even if it is an unromantic fact, people are able to mix the tint of fantasy and flair of their prejudices and biasness. So this happens. This is how it is, right? So none of the researcher, none of the respondent, none of the surveyor is free from any bias. But you should try hard to neutralize yourself from any sort of biasness. You should do it, right? Nobody is 100% unbiased, but at least we should try, right? So I mean, you must be saying inside you, no, I'm 100% biased and all, but the fact is that no, none of us are. Everybody have their own tint of sides. We always pick up sides, right? So especially the ones they say that I never pick a side are the ones who actually pick a side. And it's not wrong to pick a side as long as you have your own convincing thoughts and thoughtful investment are there before taking up a side. So no sides are absolutely right and absolutely wrong. It is your place, right? From where you see the distance, the color, the veracity, the other things matters most. So yep, so we should all try to be as neutral as possible and shouldn't be any bias. And then third thing is ambiguity. So most of the biased people use this third factor as lot. It's called ambiguity. So you put ambiguity in a matter that people tend to answer towards you, right? So there is some sort of pre-decide persuasions you practice in your research, and that also tends to give you a biased research. Ultimately, your research is going to be hampered, right? And like if you have 20 research papers published, by going to looking at those 20 research papers, I can predict your biasness, and others can predict your biasness, and then you will forcefully tend to join the club of researchers who are having XYZ biasness, away from the other side of clubs who are having ABC kind of biasness. So that is how that is a very useful practice in our fraternity. Honesty is what you shouldn't be. Reality is what we all are. So I can't help you. Next is no leading questions. There shouldn't. I'll giving you some examples of leading questions in the subsequent slide. So there shouldn't be any leading questions, and no multiple threaded questions. We call it double barrel or multiple barrel questions. So like so, and lot of researchers do it. So one of the mistakes we do. I'll talk about the mistakes a little later. I think it should better change the slide and talk about it. Right. So yeah. So what is questionnaire? So a questionnaire, right? So there is a company called Gallup. यहाँ पे Gallup की spelling थोड़ी सी अलग है. Sir Francis Gallup के नाम से. It is ethical to use some 10 students Google survey into our results. Can you, Pooja, can you reframe questions? I did not understand the term Google survey. Are you talking about the Google form questionnaire method? Use some 10 student Google survey. You need to reframe your question, Pooja. I really want to answer that question. Okay, so Gallup is I think it's the world's first company to do exit poll in US, and then how in all democratic country has got this exit poll as a practice, and it has become very hot commodity in terms of media to sell, and very selling product of the media. So Gallup is the company which conducted the first questionnaire, designed the question and do the first exit poll survey. And pre-poll survey and opinion poll survey, all these instruments was actually designed by this company called Gallup, right, under the leadership of Sir Francis Gallup. So this is what, so true, Jitin. Thank you. When we are biased in our life, it does spill out. Yeah, Abin, thank you very much for seconding my thought. We should try hard to be unbiased, but the reality is that none of us are actually unbiased. What percentage of bias can be sensed in exit poll? Pooja, there is a term called poll of polls. If you guys have been following the news from last couple of days, you've heard the term called poll of poll. So aren't there a quota sampling? Yeah, there is a quota sampling. There is a quota sampling in the exit poll. Of course, it has to be a quota sampling. You cannot predict seats, because you know what, when you are taking the exit survey, you are only asking from the respondent that which party have they casted their vote. But out of casting the vote, you can predict the percentage of the vote has gone to a particular party. But how will you predict the seats from that poll, right? So in order to predict the seats a particular political party is going to win, can only happen by this quota sampling, right? And there is a formula. You can go to Dr. Rajiv Karandikar's. He's been the head of NSSO Chennai Institute. He's a cephalologist. He has devised a really good formula of quota sampling for the exit poll survey and seat predictions, right? So of course it has to be quota sampling. And yeah, coming back to the questionnaire. So questionnaire is a set of questions, and in which the sequence of question matters, the tool of questions matter, the kind of responses matters, the close-ended responses, the open-ended responses, everything matters, and the positioning of those questions matters a lot. So the questionnaire is a very scientific instrument. It is just not a pack of questions. It is the design of questions which makes a questionnaire, right? So how should one design a questionnaire? Is like one variable to be tested at one logic. So yeah, so in the question there shouldn't be multiple logic and multiple questions. I'm going to give you an example in the next slide, right? So you shouldn't do that, and should be focused on respondent comprehension, right? It should not be enlightenment to you as a researcher. It should be comprehensible to the respondent. So don't use bigger and heavy vocabularies. Don't sound as an intellect and smart person. Sound as a humble and submissive person when you're doing your sample. So so that respondent should be felt respected. Any solution or tip to not to be biased or least biased? Yes, Samad, I'm very happy to answer this question. Do a lot of literature review, especially from the literature review of the of the researchers having results and predictions opposite to what you are anticipating from your survey, right? So accommodate their opinion, accommodate their methods, then you will be able to reduce your biases from your respondents. So giving an example, if you remember Barack Obama's exit speech, it is a wonderful quote. I always quote. So I'm not kind of fan of Obama, though his oratory is really very impressive. But I'm very happy that America got Barack Obama as a president, because it has set a record that a person of a different skin color and different ethnicity and different origin can also get an impartial chance of becoming the president of a democratic country. So that is, but I mean, that is a philosophy. I don't want you to be enforced. The fourth point is not. Evan, can you put your point here? I want to understand what you're saying. Any solution on it? So Samad, so I want to quote the example of Barack Obama's statement. He said that we all live in a cohort, in the balloon of our people, right? So we have our own. So even if I'll go to your social media profiles, the kind of people are into your followership, the kind of people are in your friend list, the people you follow are having some sort of agreements with you, and they are selected based upon some sort of biasness, and that's why they are into your friend list or in your follower list or followed list, right? So and that is how all the 3 to 4 billion people having some social media platforms are connected with each other, right? So they're connected based upon some of the biases. And the family we live in, the community we live in, the region we live in, the geographic location we live in, the food habit we have, all of it gives us a comfort zone to operate, right? We live in a comfort zone of 300 or 400 people, and based upon what these 300 400 people do think, based upon that thought we decide, based upon that likes this and dislike this we develop, right? So we try to behave like our community, because that community gives us a sense of security and sense of ownership, right? And that is when we start becoming biased. So what Obama has said, that everybody should keep expanding their cohort, right? Keep enlarging your cocoon, your balloon, so that you can accommodate people of different diaspora, people of different ethnicity, community, and religion and origin, right? By doing this, you will be able to have more opinions coming in your way, and you will be able to have more freedom of choices. I want to give you another example here, Samad, with my personal experience. When I was working in Bangalore with a reputed media company, that time I was having a writer colleague who was LGBTQ, he did not belong to the binary of male or female, and he was having all the different way of dressing and different way of putting this, marking his hair and all sort of makeup and everything. And I, being a North Indian, when I was in Bangalore, I have a strong sense of hatred towards the people not belonging to a female or male category of human binary, right? So, and I used to hate him, and I used to not sit along with the desk attached to him. And one day I participated in a poetry program conference, and that poetry conference was chaired by that particular writer, journalist, and I was amused and aghast to see that the set of male and female are being led by the person of not binary gender. And I was thought what this is, and I was not able to grasp it until when I heard that guy for the first time reciting his poem. And in the poem, in the process of reciting the poem, he was telling me the experience of the first time when he realized that he is not male or female, and the first time when he went to his parents and said that I do not belong to either of the gender. and the emotion behind it, the moment he explained in his poetry, helped me fall in love with that particular person. And from that onwards, he became very good friend, and I realized that the kind of knowledge he has, the kind of exposure he has, is really a treasure for me to have. So I think I have given you some sense of how to reduce what we call is biases. Right, friends. So, yep. So I will take it from here. I have a couple of things. I have to talk about the tools. I have to talk about the common things. I think there are a lot of things I want to discuss, and I will sequence it from. Rupak, I will share the slides, right? So I will take it from this slide tomorrow, and I will kind of club it. I thought today is going to be a shorter lecture, but then I took a lot of time explaining in it. I'm sorry I overstepped time. I have to stop it here. Yeah, I mean, it was a lovely point for me to turning point for me, right? Really, I think you are able to empathize with me. So I will stop it here. I will take these slides tomorrow again, along with the slides which is already planned for tomorrow. These are some of the slides which is planned for tomorrow. I want you guys to please subscribe my YouTube channel, and I want your lovely comments, and you like it and share it among your friend circle. And we are the catalyst of research. We are accelerating your research. Please help us connect with the person who need our help. Editing and proofreading and data analysis or expert consulting. If anybody needs these services, these are my contact details. We will love to hear from you if at all you want it. Right? Please allow to write in the Telegram, Dr. Ankit Patel. I'm going to allow it today, right after this session. I'm going to do that. Thank you very much for pointing it. And yes, friends, so this is how we are going to help you. So please like and subscribe the channel. It will help us reach out to more people who need us and who we need it, right? So we will create the community of like-minded people this way. So thank you, Ebin. See you again tomorrow. We are going to send this PPT into the Telegram group, and also we're going to send you individually over the email. Thank you very much for connecting, and you are free to take today. Also, you're going to get the quiz. Please participate in the quiz. It will confirm your learning. It will permanent your learning, and it will help all of you. So, with the lovely wishes and friendly note, I want to end the session today. Thank you very much.